Hello, and welcome to the Union County Performing Arts Center's Hamilton stage in Rahway, New Jersey. I'm your host, Louis Rocky Bacigalupo, and this is
The Art of Performance,
a UCPAC podcast. Every time I'm with him, I know I'm a lucky girl. For the first time in my life, I'm someone in this world. Bye-bye blues, I can't lose. Got a Jeremy. Every day is sunny 'cause I got love. I got love. I got love. I got love, love, love. I got love.
The Art of Performance is a new podcast brought to you by the Union County Performing Arts Center, where we dive into all facets of the arts with a special focus on the creative process. Today, we're interviewing the incredible artists who are bringing Purlie to life here at UCPAC's Hamilton stage in Rahway, New Jersey. Let's take a look. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
This is a great tracksuit.
How about right there?
That's fantastic. That might be too close. I have the same. I have just the top, though.
Oh, cool.
I gotta get the pants, but
Cool. Oh, I'm digging your tie.
thank you. This is 99-cent store. Worth every penny. Yeah, so I'm just gonna fire some questions. Where were you born?
Well, I was born in San Jose, California. I grew up dancing. I was just dancing like at parties, at reunions, at barbecues. You know, I was just always that kid as a young kid, just that always loved to dance. So my mother saw that inspiration in me. You know, you're too young, but there used to be a show called The Ed Sullivan Show.
I know The Ed
and
Sullivan
every time
Show.
I would see Sammy Davis Jr. tapping on that stage, I would get up on the coffee table and try to imitate him. So that's what that happened. And when I got about 16 years old, I started taking dance classes in San Jose, California, from an amazing dance teacher who I'm still close with today. She's kind of my counselor, Maurice Dinette. So I started there when I was like 16 years old, and I learned jazz dancing and tap dancing. And, you know, I come from a San Jose flourished with community theater. So I was able to do like San Jose Civic Light Opera, and I did a production of West Side Story.
Sure.
And we had a lot of tours that would come through town. And one tour that I'm so blessed that came through in 1979 was The Wiz. And it was with Lillias White. But Lillias White pretty much kind of introduced me to theater because she was playing Dorothy in The Wiz. And I saw her on stage and I was like, oh my goodness, this is what I want to do.
Really?
So that's what kind of helped like me and pointed me in a direction on a journey. So, you know, after that, I got into like theme park, and I played like Little Richard singing Tutti Frutti like 8 times a day. You know, back in the day, they used to have these theme park shows. I don't know, we don't have that anymore. And then that moved me to Chicago. I lived in Chicago for 25 years. I got a dance scholarship at Hubbard Street Dance Company. And after that year of being on a dance scholarship, that's what got me my Actors Equity card.
Right.
I was the first Richie in a chorus line in a regional theater production. So that was in 1985. And from there, I just kind of spanned it out, and I grew, and I did a lot of theater, and I did industrial shows, which don't even exist anymore. So I'm from that world, like industrial shows, where I did an industrial show in Las Vegas with like Tony Randall. I don't know if you know him, or Liberace, sure. And you know, Rita Moreno. So it was like those kinds of things, and it was at Caesar's Palace. And you know what an industrial show is?
I think so, but if you can elaborate.
So an industrial show, we did it for. We don't have a Hardee's on the East Coast, but say if McDonald's was having a big meeting for their company with their managers, and they would fly everybody to Vegas, and they hired actors and dancers, and they put on a show, and we'd sing about their product. So that's exactly. So that was.
What would you sing about for Hardee's? What was the song?
Hardee's has a lot to sing about. It's a burger.
That's fantastic.
I still remember the song.
I know Hardee's.
I'm good.
That's fantastic. That's
Come
beautiful. It was always clear for you since you can remember that you were.
Always.
So was it dance specifically in music, or was it acting as well, or?
It was dancing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a dancer at heart first. But, you know, to fast forward, I end up choreographing and directing. And one of my first shows that I directed was at Chicago Shakes. Chicago Shakes now brings in a lot of shows to Broadway. 6, Notebook. But my show was back in 2000, and I was the one that pioneered as a director choreographer for Chicago Shakes. I brought my production of Joseph from Marriott Lincolnshire Theater to the Chicago Shakes. So I kind of started that. But let me tell you about what's going on right now.
Please. Yes.
Okay, so here at the American Theater Group, at this stage that I'm sitting on right now, the Hamilton stage in Rahway, we have an amazing cast of Purlie. And I am so grateful and so honored and so full of joy of this company. Y'all gots to come out to see this because this show has not been done since the 70s.
Wow.
And it's totally relevant to what's going on in the world right now. And not only are you going to laugh, it's a satire, it's a comedy, but not only are you going to laugh, you're going to also be tapping your foot in the audience, and you're going to be swaying, you're going to be rocking. And some of the songs that you've heard, like I Got Love, which is a very famous song that Melba Moore, you know, sang in the show, but I didn't want to talk about those people that were in the show. I'm talking about the people that are in the show right now. We are so blessed to have Timothy Ware, who's playing Purlie. We have a newcomer named Aeja Barrows. We have our Missy is Nicole. We've got, you know, Virginia. She's playing Idella. We've got, I mean, it's just an amazing cast. Get Low. We got Tyson, Jeanette. So I really want you all to be able to come out and to see these people. This is something very special.
Yes.
It's a very special room that we're in right now. It really is. And, you know, all we can do is laugh and have joy. And that's what my rooms are always about. And that's all I always want my rooms to be. You know, I don't want it to be like, because there's enough of that in this world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to be able to come in to create and make theater and to laugh and, you know, to find art. I think that's really important. We got a great ensemble. I just met with them today. We staged a number, and we've got a great musical director, Gary Mitchell. We've got a great stage manager, Bernita Robinson. And American Theater Group has been really good. You know,
they're fantastic.
With the creative team, and you know, with our producer, our artistic director, Jim. You know, so it's just been a good time.
Yeah. And how's the rehearsal process going so far?
It's going amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we learned a whole show in like, I don't know, 3 hours.
It's crazy. You told me you had 8 days to do that?
I don't know. I feel like we've learned the whole show in like 4 or 5 days.
Oh my gosh.
But it's a good group.
Yeah.
We have a good group of actors, and they've got things coming at them from right, left, back, and front, and they're just going with it, you know? And to me, that's the most important thing.
Sure.
Oh, I forgot somebody, Charlie.
Charlie.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to know
how important casting is. Casting is so important, and let me just give a shout out to Michael Caeser, who did Michael Caeser casting. He did an amazing job. Just an amazing job.
I can't wait.
In this company, he really did. Yeah.
That's great. If you weren't in the arts today, what would you be doing?
I'd probably be like having a huge garden. Again, it's creating. I'm like a horticulturalist.
Sure.
My grandfather was like a horticulturalist. So I love, like I have a balcony at home. It's a little teeny terrace. It's tiny, but I grow stuff.
Yeah.
And it comes back.
It's funny. So many artists. Yeah.
Mums. I'm in a mum phase right now, but right now I'm ready to plant like vegetables because I'm afraid of our food that we're eating.
Sure.
That's a whole nother podcast. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I mean.
It's okay. This is going to be my last question. It's the most important. If you were a pizza topping,
Oh, God.
what pizza topping would you be and why?
I would be a black olive.
There you go. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's fantastic. And we love you, Kenny.
I love you, too.
This is fantastic. Get your tickets. Purlie, all of March, American Theater
Y'all
Group.
better come out and see the show.
Rahway, New Jersey, Hamilton Stage. Kenny, thank you for being my first guest. It's an honor to meet you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
How's it going, guys? How far are you into rehearsal?
week and a half.
Has it been a week and a half? Yes,
Week and a half. Can you tell me a little bit about, you're the title character. Can you tell me a little bit about Purlie for those who don't know?
Yes, Purlie. Purlie, written by the late and wonderful Ossie Davis. Preacher man, sharecropper, comes back home after searching for a young lady named Lutiebelle to pretend to be his cousin, who is due an inheritance. And Purlie and his family have been sharecroppers on the plantation of old Stonewall Kochby. I know I just mangled his name.
That was good.
But it's a long one. Stonewall Jackson Kochby is the plantation owner's name. And they're sharecroppers, and he's the one who has Purlie's inheritance. So Purlie devises a scheme to win that inheritance back by bringing Lutiebelle to pretend to be his cousin B, who was next in line for said inheritance. And then the hilarity ensues from there.
Well, I play Missy, Purlie's sister-in-law, and she is kind of holding it down, holding the homestead down, because we live together in this very small, we call it a shack, but I call it a home. And I am aware of this scheme, and I'm not really that gung ho for it because it's risky, and there are consequences, deadly consequences in my view, and so I'm a little afraid of what may happen, but I eventually am swayed to go in on it, and I hadn't realized really the depth of this show until I started rehearsal. Really.
Yeah.
I knew about it. I hadn't thought about it in so long because it's an old show.
Yeah.
And it's not done. And so
Kenny said the last time it was done was in the 70s.
Yeah, it was done for television in 1980.
Okay.
But as far as like a run, not since the 70s.
Wow.
And so it really hadn't been, in my mind. I remember my parents had the album. There's a green album, I remember. Yeah. But I hadn't thought about it. And when the opportunity came to perform in it, I started feeling more excited the more once we got into rehearsal.
Yeah.
I was glad to be in it, but once we got to rehearsal and we read through it, I was like, this is going to be great.
So you had seen that they were casting, you booked it, and then you started thinking about your history with it.
Yes.
Right? And then
Yes, I called my older brother and said, remember that album? And he was like, oh my gosh. And he was like, our parents went to see it, and my parents went to see it, and they had the album, and I would drag you to listen to the album, and we would pretend to be people, and I didn't know what it was about. But so it's kind of special.
What was your memories of? Was this the first time?
Or? Oh no, and just there was a production of Purlie about 20 years ago that happened, but it wasn't on the. It was on the West Coast.
Okay.
On the East Coast. It took place at Pasadena Playhouse and then the Goodman Theater. I was in it. I was part of the ensemble at that time.
Okay.
So I was one of the dancer-singers in the show. So this musical holds a very special place in my heart.
Yeah.
Because of that. And
now you're the man.
I've always been the man.
But now you're.
Yeah, but now, yes, definitely, I am Purlie Victorious Judson himself, and it's such an honor to play this role. I like to think of it as a play with music more than a musical, because much of the text that's from the play Purlie Victorious is still very much a part of this musical. So, it's. And Ossie's words, it's just poetry.
Yeah.
So to be able to wrap my mind and my tongue around such
eloquence.
Oh my goodness. It's an actor's dream.
Are you able to talk a little bit, like, individually about your background in the arts, like where it started for you?
I started as a dancer, much like Kenny. But I was an acting major at Howard University. And I knew that's what I wanted to focus on more than, even though I love musical theater and I wanted to be a triple threat, but I didn't get any real training before the age of 18 in acting. So that's what I wanted to do. And I did a lot of regional theater, some off-Broadway stuff, and I got my first big tour in Dreamgirls. Went around the country for about 5 or 6 months, and then kind of figured out that I wanted to do some film. So I moved out to California. Then I got married, moved back to New York. Got my another big tour of South Pacific, and then I went on to do Broadway with Hairspray and Ragtime, the revival, and and it's just been, I think the older I get, you're supposed to get better, right? But I think there are more opportunities for me now than there were when I was younger, obviously. And I think just because of the energy that I bring and my type, I seem to be booking a lot more as I get older.
You seem like a very warm person. That's very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you, my friend?
Well, I been performing since I was a kid. I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama, and I went to a performing arts junior high school there. And at the age of 12, I got to do my first professional show at the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, which is an equity theater in my hometown, a production of Big River. And I did a few other shows there, and eventually decided that I wanted to do this professionally. As an adult, because I did it professionally as a kid, but as an adult. And I, like Nicole, went to an HBCU. I went to Alabama State University, and I was a theater arts major there. When I got my equity card, it was as a dancer as well in Los Angeles. After I went to UCLA for their graduate acting program. Did a year there, dropped out, and decided I wanted to just work. And one of the first shows that I booked, like 2 months after I dropped out of school, was at the Mark Taper, called a show called Like Jazz, that was written by Cy Coleman and Alan and Marilyn Bergman. I got to work with Cy Coleman.
Wow.
Yeah. I was so green, I didn't realize
Who it
the
was?
greats that I was with. It was Cy Coleman, Alan and Marilyn Bergman, who won Oscars for The Way We Were, Barbra Streisand. Lillias White was in it. I can't think of her name right now. It was filled with just legends. And I also, like Nicole, did a couple of Broadway tours, my first being Jesus Christ Superstar, that came out of Los Angeles, and then eventually Mamma Mia, Dreamgirls, and Kinky Boots on Broadway.
Hell yeah.
I was the original cast of Kinky Boots on Broadway, so which was a pretty dynamic experience.
That's a crazy show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were dancing as children, right? Yeah. You always knew?
Yeah, I always knew I would perform in one aspect or another. Singing, acting, dancing, all of the above.
If you weren't going to be doing the arts today, what would you be doing ideally? Like your other interest, what would you have pursued?
Oh my gosh. I would probably be some kind of therapist. Yeah.
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 I can see that.
Probably like in relationship, families, that kind of thing. People need help. Man.
Sure.
People need help. It's a crazy world when it comes to romantic relationships right now. There are not people aren't getting married. People are not, they're swiping and swiping and swiping, and they're not finding anything because their heads are all screwed up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably where I would be. Yeah.
I would probably be a politician.
Yeah?
I could see that.
I would probably like run for mayor or something of Montgomery, of Alabama, where I'm from.
Oh.
I just feel like I would want to help enact real change, like real pivotal things that would just shift everything in the mindset as well. So yeah, it's crossed my mind many times.
Yeah.
But that means living in Alabama. Live in Alabama again.
And you as artists, it's not totally unrelated to what the therapy and change, man.
Yeah.
God bless you guys. This is awesome. Thanks so much. And my last question: if you were gonna be a pizza topping, what pizza topping would you be, and why?
First of all, that's my favorite food.
Yeah, it's mine too. It's mine.
It's got to be
too.
good though. I would probably be basil.
Basil.
Basil, because
Good
you
one.
don't know it. You don't know what you're missing until you put it on there.
Well put.
I would be garlic.
Oh,
Does that count as a topping?
you stay around for a while.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
I cannot wait to see your work in Purlie. I'll be there. And thank you so much for
Thank you
the
very
time.
much.
And thank you again.
Thank you.
Hi, Aeja.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I've heard a lot about you.
Yeah.
Everyone says how wicked talented you are.
Oh,
I'm so
that's
happy to be
nice.
interviewing you.
I'm so glad I'm here.
Yeah.
So how I started performing arts, I kind of always kind of sang. Like since middle school, that was like my journey, but I knew I wanted to do and like gain more skills, and I wasn't quite into writing at the time. And so I decided to, just do Lion King Jr. at my school, and I was casted as Rafiki, and then I was like, wow, like this is what I really want to do. And so I've just been doing that ever since. I've been trying to find any show I could. And eventually I moved to Maryland, where I became a student at Baltimore School for the Arts,
Cool.
the high school, where I was in the music program. But even though I absolutely love the music program, and I absolutely loved just all the insight and all the knowledge that classical music gave to me, and the classical training was super, super important, and I still think it's super important, but I knew I wanted to pursue more skills, like acting and dancing. And so then for about 2 summers, I went to Interlochen, where I did a musical theater audition intensive, and that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I got to work with like a lot of. I think that was my first time working with true like professionals, like at least. Yeah, like working with one-on-one and actually honing the craft and actually knowing how to like act through a song and knowing that journey that a song takes you. And
You said that was with a focus on audition, did you say?
yes, auditioning.
So they wanted to book the job.
Kind of just like how can you conduct yourself in an audition room?
Sure.
And how to cut your music, and how, like, for instance, if you had like a 16-bar cut of a song, which is very short, I believe it's from the bridge to the end, where like how can you create a story just from that instead of just standing there and kind of singing.
Yeah.
And so that was my first time with Interlochen. And my second time with Interlochen was when I did the production of Ragtime,
Cool.
where I played Sarah's friend, Ensemble, and Sarah's understudy. And that's when I fell in love with the show Ragtime. And I absolutely love that show. And I think that was one of my first times really researching the history into like a musical theater piece, and just reading the book, knowing the history, what like what was the Edwardian era? What
Yeah.
was the special significance of these characters mixing their cultures together? And so that's where I kind of fell in love with really digging deep
Sure.
in the research of it.
Doing a lot of homework on everything, right?
Oh, yes.
So how much does that inform your performance? Like influence it?
Ooh,
How much is it?
influences
Because
a
it's
lot.
like it's Asia, but in
Right.
that context.
Right, absolutely. It definitely influences a lot of my performance because then you have to consider, let's say, for example, the show I'm currently in, Lutiebelle. She's not from Georgia like the other characters. She's from Dothan, Alabama. So where is Dothan, Alabama? It's in the south of Alabama. So then I'm like, okay, well, her dialect is going to be a lot different from Purlie, Missy, and Gitlow
Wow.
because they are in the south of Georgia and they got me from Alabama. And so that kind of makes me go, oh, then what are the customs of people from Dothan, Alabama, or like Southeast Alabama? What kind of changed over the years? What's the difference between a person, a younger person right now who's from Dothan, Alabama, than an older person? And how do they just conduct themselves through life? And that definitely helps me embody the character and embody what this character is feeling and
Sure.
how they're moving through space. At least that's how
How literally like just
yeah,
how
like
they're moving,
how they are,
their
like
mannerisms,
what's going on, right?
Everything.
Because like, let's say for example, like usually we kind of sit, kind of just like very relaxed, where we might slouch a little bit. But since it's back in the day and my character, I mean, she's a maid and she has to act in a certain way and she's wearing a skirt, so she might have her legs closed and to the side because back in the day, sitting like this in church, no sir, no sir, you get whooped. But yeah.
That's fantastic. So when you're building your character, what's more important, experience or imagination?
I think what's important, I think both is important because you have to figure out that imagination of what it feels like to be in the South, but also you also have to but it's also just from experience, at least from this piece, because it's so specific. Purlie as a musical and as a play and as a story is incredibly specific to the Black experience. And so I think it's both. I think both are very.
I think that's a good.
Very important. It's because the show is so specific, and I think what's really interesting about Purlie is the language in Ossie Davis's words. I know Kenny and Timothy and Nicole and everybody in the cast. I feel like a lot of us are trying to have that focus on the words because, at least I would say, it's like so Shakespearean and so specific, and the rhythm is so specific. It's not like iambic pentameter, but there is a specific rhythm, and that I feel like a lot of us as Black people, even if we weren't raised in the South, there is like this specific rhythm to a lot of the language.
I can't wait to see. I've heard so much about your voice. Can you sing anything short?
Oh my gosh! Maybe. Is this live?
It's not live.
Okay.
So I'm very happy to remove it, but
God.
please, I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy.
Oh my gosh. From what? Anything? Okay. Every time I'm with him, I know I'm a lucky girl. For the first time in my life, I'm someone in this world. Bye-bye blues. I can't lose. Got to Jeremy. Every day is sunny 'cause I got love. I got love. I got love. I got love, love, love. I got love. Every day.
Come on, guys. That's the podcast. What could I possibly ask you? That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. If you were a pizza topping, what pizza topping would you be and why?
Bacon.
All right. Aeja, thank you. I can't wait to see all your work. And I'll be
Thank
here. Thank you
you.
again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to meet you.
So hey, I'm Louis. How you doing?
Kayla, how are you?
What are your names again?
I'm Kayla.
Kayla.
I'm Maya.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. You too.
What's up? How's the rehearsing going?
It's going pretty well, I think.
Yeah?
We kind of just started. It's a fast process, but
It is.
it's moving smoothly, I think.
Well, how do you begin to do such a large piece in such a short amount of time?
That's a great question. I think it starts with having like a brilliant team.
Yeah.
So Kenny is a brilliant director, and he just has such a strong vision. And then we have a brilliant stage management team that's kind of, keeping us on track and keeping us in line with making sure that we're meeting our goals.
Yeah.
And so the principal cast started 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we as Ensemble just joined this week. We learned all of the music yesterday, and then today we started learning choreography. But the principal cast started learning their blocking 2 weeks ago, and so the whole show is basically blocked, and so they're just kind of plugging us in.
Awesome. You're obviously dancing in Purlie?
Well, not as much as Kayla, because she's our dance captain too. You should
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Cool. You should tell that.
You just seen the lift that she had to do today. It was beautiful. But yes, I'll be dancing a little bit in Purlie.
When you're doing a musical and you're singing and dancing, how much can you because you have to be collected or you will screw up everybody, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't be, you're not looking for like on a stage, you might be like, if a happy accident happens or someone does
Yes.
something weird or something breaks and you can kind of roll, but there's not really a lot of room to.
No, that's such a great question. Yeah, it's honestly, it's not that different, but it's only different when it comes to the music and the choreography, because for that there are counts, there are steps, and of course, like, we're all humans, and tech and they're humans, and then the set is also inanimate, so like there are things that are happy accidents and that mess up, and costumes might rip and that kind of thing, so you deal with it in the moment, but then you kind of have to go back to that that track, but I guess in that way, like, the preparation is a little bit more rigid, I guess. Whereas in acting, I feel like it's just kind of like memorizing, making sure I have that blocking, for text, just in case there's a specific light cue. But within all of that, then I just get to color outside the lines, kind of. But for musical theater, it feels like when it comes to the music and when it comes to the dance, you got to stay in that 8 count. You've got to, stay in that. And then if there's anything within that, it feels like I'm coloring, but it's kind of using all of the markers within the lines versus like getting to color outside of the lines with all the markers as well. But then, when there are scenes in musical theater, it still feels like that act.
I think Tim, the Purlie said it like really well, that it was kind of like a play that happens to be a musical.
Yes.
Which I thought was like, oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Very well said.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, though, I guess, like, as an actor first, because I feel the opposite. I feel like the steps for me are kind of like lines I guess for like an actor. They're just like the framework, but you're like acting through the moves, like, I don't know, I feel like when I'm dancing, and maybe this is just me, but I feel like when I'm dancing, I'm acting. Like, I feel like
I'd agree with that.
They should mean something. I mean, to me, but
I completely agree with you. No, I completely agree with you. I think that's what I'm saying too. But it also feels like for choreography, like, you get the choreography and then you act through it, versus like you come in with like this idea of a character that you've kind of prepared in some way, shape, or form, and then your director puts a frame on it.
I see.
Versus like getting the frame first and then coloring it.
I see.
Or like I guess like with that coloring analogy, it's kind of like you get the coloring book and then I get to marker inside of like that already drawn picture, versus like kind of making a big doodle and then someone's like, oh, that's a boat that I see in the ocean. And it's like, oh, that's what that is. And it feels the other way. So it feels like it's all acting, and there's all preparation inside of it, but the framework comes first for musicals.
It must feel electric when I've never performed with an ensemble, but when it like all comes together, it must be a crazy feeling.
It's amazing, and I start to feel a little bit of it today.
Yeah.
We're honestly, like, outside of the musical and rehearsing, it's a really great group of people.
Cool, that's so good to hear.
So when we met each other yesterday, everything kind of already felt like family. So when we got to go in today and actually get up on our feet and be on stage with each other, I don't know, we started singing and I was just like, ooh, let's open tomorrow, you guys.
It's fun to, like, because you have an idea in your head of what the show is going to be or what your character is going to be. But when you put other people into the mix, it's like, oh, that's a cool choice. I'm going to play with that.
Absolutely.
Like, it's fun to play
Yeah,
around
I think
with
that's
other.
what I kind of meant by that question too. Like, well, you answered it obviously, but like, let's say like you're doing a play or something, and you go in on Monday, and someone says a line, right? And you find it like, you know, like you're on a stage, like you find it funny or something, and you just go with it because we're really just trying to live truthfully. But like in a musical, like you can't really let that line like piss you off the next day.
I would say yes and no. It depends on the moment of the show. At least in my brain, it feels like if that line pisses you off, like, go ahead and like let that affect the way that you say your line in that scene, or let it affect the way that you know.
I meant sing when you're singing and dancing.
Yeah,
like,
or like let it affect the way like that movement, that kick happens today. Like let it.
Cool.
As long as it doesn't as long as you don't change the notes,
sure.
And as long as you don't change the choreography, you can let that person still affect you and let that sound have a different quality and that movement have a different quality. Yeah. As long as the note isn't changed or the movement isn't changed. Yeah.
And I think for me, that's one of my favorite parts about being in the ensemble, because like for the leads, their story is written. Like they have actual lines. Like you have to follow the book. But as an ensemble member, I can be whoever I want to be. Like I get to write my own story.
That's so true.
A whole backstory.
And it can change as long as I do the same movements. Or like sing the same notes, but the intention can change every
That's
time.
a great point that I never thought about. That's fantastic. Well, I appreciate you talking so passionately about this with me. I can't wait to see your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for watching the first episode of our new podcast, The Art of Performance. We hope that you found this conversation informative and inspiring. Once again, Purlie will be performed at the Hamilton Stage in Rahway, New Jersey, a part of the Union County Performing Arts Center, all of March. Tickets below. Well, once again, I'm your host, Louis. See you next time.